Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be talking about the last 9 of 9 new subclass from the Taldorei Reborn campaign from Matthew Mercer.
Yep.
Unofficial, of course, as all these other ones are.
Unlike the campaign book that'll be coming out
Yes,
later
in
this year, which
March,
will be official.
Yeah, so don't get confused. I know it's weird.
Yeah.
All that being said, the Blood Magic Wizard. So, what we're going to do, if you're new to the channel or to the subclass series, we're going to go through all the abilities gained in this subclass, and we're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in this subclass improve on the base class abilities.
Indeed.
Also have our giveaway for D&D Beyond Players
Free
Bundle.
stuff.
Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in that. And lastly, thank you to our sponsors, the Seeds of Decay Kickstarter. Make sure you check them out. Cool campaign setting, scalable monsters, magic items, character options, everything you want to see in a D&D book. Also, it's being made with the help from Hit Point Press, so you know there's going to be quality.
You know it's good stuff in there, for sure.
So yeah, definitely make sure you check that out while it's still running. You know you don't want to miss Kickstarters because you get all that extra bonus cool stuff.
That's kind of the way they function.
So yeah, Alex, let's jump straight into it. Wizard, blood magic. What do we get?
We're gonna channel some blood with blood channeling, level 2. What we're starting out doing. Whenever your current hit points are below your maximum, which your wizard, you hope it never happens. Let's be real, because you're probably close to dead if that happens. But it's part of playing a wizard. You can use your own body as an arcane focus. So that's, if that doesn't give you advantage on intimidation checks every time you're casting spell in front of somebody, I don't know what does.
You do have to say my body's ready though every time. Just saying. Sorry, continue. What else?
It's supposed to be a family-friendly show. In addition, when casting a wizard spell that requires costly material components, you can forego the component by taking 1d10 necrotic damage per 50 gold cost of the component, minimum of 1d10. Damage can't be reduced anyway if this damage reduces you to 0 hit points, which your wizard is possible. The spell fails, but the spell slot is not expended. Well, gee, thanks.
Hey, at least we didn't spend a spell slot.
I suicided myself trying to cast a spell, but at least I get to keep the spell slot.
Yeah, we have thoughts about that. We'll get to that later. Sanguine Burst. At 2nd level, you learn how to weave your life force into a spell you cast, boosting its intensity at the cost of your vitality. Are you sensing a theme yet? Whenever you roll damage for a spell you've cast of 1st level or higher, you can choose to take necrotic damage equal to the spell's level to re-roll a number of damage dice up to your intelligence modifier. This damage can't be reduced in any way, and you must use the new rolls.
That's at least a... 1 damage per spell level is much less than 1d10 per... Because you could beat 9 with a d10.
Yes.
So that hurts a lot less.
For sure.
At 6, we have Bond of Mutual Suffering. This is my favorite thing here. Might I add... When a creature you see hits you with an attack, you can use your reaction to bind your vitality to the attacker and force them to share your pain. The attacker takes damage equal to the damage you took.
Full stop.
Did you hear the word saving throw in there?
Nope.
No, you did not. The feature cannot be used against constructs or undead. Makes sense, because lack of blood and all. You can use this feature once. You must finish a short or long rest where you can use it again. At 14th level, you can use it twice between rests.
Yes. Then at level 10, we have the Glyph of Hemorrhaging. When you damage a creature with a spell, you can choose to curse that creature for 1 minute. While cursed in this way, whenever the creature is hit by an attack, which is general. Spell attack, weapon attack, all that. Attack, period, statement. It takes an extra 1d6 necrotic damage. At the end of each of the creature's turns, it can make a Constitution saving throw against your spell save DC, ending the curse on a success. This feature cannot be used against creatures that are undead or constructs. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So I think one thing I want to point out to make sure it's clarified on here is every attack, that includes everyone in your party.
Fighter.
Get that extra 1d6.
Monk.
Yeah, so if you have a fighter and a monk and some other people. But the only weird thing that comes into play on here is, well, we'll get to that in the combat rating section.
Yes. And finally at 14, our capstone, we have Thicker Than Water. Whenever a spell or magical effect causes you to regain a number of hit points, you regain an additional number of hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. It's good because you're spending your health to do things, and you don't have much health. In addition, this is where things get fun. When you are concentrating on a spell, you have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. So you're a raging barbarian when concentrating on a spell.
There you go. All right, so yeah, those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
Yep.
So now we move on to the rating portion of the video. First up is the roleplay value asterisk. As always, talking about roleplay value, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background, that is on you as a player. We can't rate you as a player, but we can rate the abilities gained in this subclass and how they might improve your potential in those role play scenarios. So,
yes,
looking at everything on here, you might have noticed there's lots of things to deal with. Dealing damage to yourself to increase your combat versatility.
Yes.
And that is very true. So really the only thing we're looking at here is the body as an arcane focus and not needing material components.
Yeah.
At the cost of your own vitality.
But did I remind you, you are a wizard. We have a D6 hit down. We did the math on this, by the way.
It's pretty brutal. You're probably going to be taking, according to my calculations, approximately 5...
Why aren't your glasses on for that? I mean, come on.
Too much glare from the light.
I mean, it's a fair point.
But I do have my pencil now, so according to my calculations, it's going to be approximately 5 to 10% of your health to do so, depending on what level you are and what your con modifier is.
Yes.
So it's going to hurt to do that. Also, my thought with this was, you're a wizard. You have access to your spell book.
You ever seen a wizard spell list? It's big.
When you gain new spells, you're either leveling up and choosing your spells, or you're copying them from somewhere else, like a spell scroll or something like that.
Yep.
The first thing you're going to do when you learn a new spell, either way, is probably to acquire said components to be able to use the spell. So I don't know why you would really ever need to use your blood vitality to cast things. I mean, in very niche circumstances, maybe you ran out of said materials, but also you're not a cleric, you're not a druid, you're not really doing these commune with nature kind of scrying spells so much. If you have one in your party, they're probably going to be doing most of that kind of stuff anyways. But it seems like that spell, or that effect to be able to cast spells without the components is more of an RP thing, because if you use a 6th or 7th or 8th level spell, to do so, you are going to annihilate your health, possibly kill yourself. So it really falls into just be a purely RP thing, but even at that, it's super niche. So, and that's the only RP stuff you're really getting in the subclass. Mm-hmm. So we just gave it a 1.5 out of 5. Thematically, it's very thematic with the RP, but again, we're not talking about the
flavor
themes and flavor.
Yeah.
We're talking about mechanically how it works. And it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me in the RP department.
No. So, one is not focused on RP, usually focuses more on combat.
This is true.
And number-wise, this is the case. The challenge is, as we've talked about, you're a wizard and you don't have very much health. But for what you can do with it, the fact that you do at least have the ability to cast spells that you may need components for, that you wouldn't be able to cast otherwise, is helpful just because it's there. If you needed it as an emergency button, it's there. Rerolling damage, I do like that one, and the cost at that is not too drastic.
Right.
Yes, you are hurting yourself, and your wisdom, you don't have very much health. We understand that, but just 1 point of damage per level of the spell to reroll number of dice equal to your intelligence modifier.
And I think just a quick comment on that too is if you're casting AoE spells like Fireball, Cone of Cold, to take 3 or 5 damage to potentially reroll up to 5 of the damage die, to potentially do 4 or 5 or 4 or 5 more damage, or potentially per creature,
target. Yeah,
you could really pump your damage up for a small price.
That math ratio works out in your favor.
It's definitely worth it on AoE spells for sure, yeah. But for single target, I'd think about it.
It just depends on how big the spell is. Like if you roll something big, if you're throwing out a single target level 6 or 7 spell,
right,
and then you roll like 3 1s out of 10 die, you're like, yeah, I'm going to take 7 and re-roll those 3 1s, and now it's a 5, a 6, and a 7.
Right.
Because it's worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jameis is correct. And AoE, the payoff is it's much better.
Right.
The bond of mutual suffering, though, is where this thing has my undivided attention.
Yeah.
Because the whole concept of retribution style damage and most other things, it's like they take damage equal to your fill in the blank modifier,
right,
or your proficiency bonus or something like that, and it's all the time, or it's like,
or there's a save attached to it,
or there's a save attached to it, or it's like you're leveling the class, but it's like once a day.
Yeah.
Well, this is once per rest. It becomes twice per rest. And it's just, they just taking it.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, to me, yes, you're a wizard, but you're just praying at some point you're fighting a caster that's smart, and he's like, oh, I'm a squishy caster. I know you's a squishy caster by looking at the little cloth you got hanging on you and the stick you're walking around with. Take this finger of death, and you're going to be like, suck brick, kid. You can take it too.
Right.
That's basically what it's going to amount to.
Yep.
So, love that. With hemorrhaging, cursing the target, it's, again, when it hits, it's automatic. There is no save for the first turn. So, especially if you've got a bunch of guys in your party or even a couple that can attack multiple times, that's going to be great, even just for the one round. The one limitation is a Constitution saving throw for it to go round for round. So the later you get, the less likely that is to be able to go round for round. A little bit of a limitation on creature type, but same thing with the previous ability. With constructs and undead. Constructs aren't super common. Undead, more common for sure. But campaign dependent, as a lot of rules are. Of course. And again, that's also once per short rest for that extra damage, but it does affect the entire party and not just your stuff.
And I think the other thing too is if you take your turn immediately after the enemy, it's significantly better because your whole party is going to get a chance.
You know you're going to get a full round.
If you go right before they go, there's a high probability they're not going to get much use out of it. So it is very dependent on initiative order as well, which can come into play sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah. Of course, and finally the capstone, getting health back is good, even if it's not a ton. It's hit number. Whenever you get hit points from a spell, you're getting additional back to your proficiency bonus, which just helps the floor out on somebody throwing healing word, cure wounds, other spells like that back at you. But the bigger thing is definitely the second half. Concentrating on spell, you get resistance to BPS, which is lovely, which will also help negate the fact that you're having to spend your health for some of your other effects that you may have. We ended up giving it a 3.5 out of a possible 5. Because, there's quite a bit of potency with re-rolling damage, causing a dude to take extra damage, and then the absolute king of kings of retribution damage you can get. Again, the problem here is your main resource you're spending to trigger 2 of your abilities, and technically 3 because you're getting hit to trigger that one, is your own health, and you're a wizard, and you don't have very much health.
Yeah, and speaking of that, it kind of ties, I'll just kind of transition into synergy a little bit here while I'm saying this, is you are a wizard. You literally have the least amount of HP
you and sorcerer
any class. I mean, yes, with sorcerer. But to have that be your resource is incredibly dangerous. It's a very much glass cannon type of thing.
To the extreme.
And the thing is, too, with the bond mutual suffering, you can use it twice between short rests. And, you can. But you also might be dead after you use it. Because if you get hit by 2 big things,
you're dead.
At level 14,
you out.
At level 14, getting hit by anything, it's going to hurt. And you have no health. So you getting hit twice and being able to retribute that might be your entire contribution to that combat. If it's the first turn you're getting whacked on.
Yep.
So that's something to keep in mind. So that's a little bit awkward on there. The theme of it is very interesting with the boost to your spell casting by using your vitality. I just feel like with the synergy side of things, having the smallest health pool makes it very difficult to manage. And also, your healers in your party or people who are able to cast healing spells could be getting a little irritable because they're having to spend all their spell slots keeping you alive because you're hurting yourself so much.
Yeah, and if there's not a druid or cleric in your party, how often do you get that free health back?
Right. And that's the thing too, is you might need to take something like a vampiric touch or something that's going to give you some self-healing to an extent, but even at that, you're not, if you're in there doing this
I was like, vampiric touch got a rage issue.
Yeah, so
need it 5 familiar for that vampiric touch, what you need.
Right, something. But the thing that is nice that's going to help significantly is the concentration on spells giving you BPS resistance, because that makes greater invisibility significantly better. Yeah. So they're going to have, most creatures would have disadvantage on the attacks against you, and you also have BPS resistance. And if you take something like Warcaster, which I feel like in this subclass is almost mandatory, for a lot of casters it's almost mandatory, let's be honest.
But for people who don't have high constitutions and lower armor classes, a la Wizard Sorcerer, it's more impactful because they're more likely to be hit by stuff anyway.
But all those things being said, the reroll damage can become huge, as I did mention, with the AoE spells. It can definitely add up. And you can just instant retribution damage, a ton of damage potentially, can definitely come into play. And if you can get the Glyph of Hemorrhaging to stick on a creature, for whatever reason, if there's some way for your party...
Even if it's like just 4 rounds.
Yeah.
If you've got 5 people in your party and it's 4 rounds, that's a bunch.
It's going to add up. It will add up. It'll kind of death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing on there.
Hey, you got a Warlock, he's got Eldritch Blast. Each one of those is a separate attack.
Yeah, I mean, there's
just thought of that. That's a separate attack roll for each one of them.
There's ways to really stack that damage up for sure, especially with fighters and monks and stuff like that.
I said Fighter, Monk, Warlock really abused the snot out of that.
Right. But of course, you have run into initiative and combat order can definitely make it very awkward.
You just got to be smart about it.
Yeah, it's con. Yeah. And at that, you get to level 10, con starts getting up there more. And
everything has got at least a +3 to con by like level 10 or more.
So all that being said, on the synergy side, we gave it a 3.5. It thematically is very interesting but again, we're looking at mechanics on here and how it just functions with your health pool. It's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And it's a very limited resource.
Yeah.
That when that resource goes to 0, you're done. So
it's not like this is like a blood ranger, blood paladin, blood fighter, blood barbarian that's got a D10 hit die that's playing with to do extra damage or give itself advantage on things or whatever else. Is wizard.
I do almost feel like I will make this comment on here that it's almost mandatory with this class. I would say to go intelligence, con as your primary stats, and almost dump everything. Just focus everything on your con and intelligence just to help get your health a little bit more. Maybe even take a tough feat and buff your HP even more. Just go like full health. Don't worry about your armor class quite so much. Because, I mean, you can use mage armor and stuff like that. There's ways you can get your armor up. And others ways to get temp HP with fire shield and stuff like that. So there's ways you can help mitigate some of that damage. For sure, but the HP with the con and the intelligence modifier might be the way to go with this one, and just not worry quite so much about everything else.
Yeah, and of course the other thought would be if you wanted to try to multi-class into something to give you a little bit of armor proficiency, just to help get your even if you just get access to even the medium armor, then you don't have to worry about your decks literally at all in terms of it, adding to your AC or whatever, like what mage armor would be. Just to give you another option to try to help you with survivability if you're going to be draining your health, especially if you want to like just absolutely abuse the berserker wizard mentality that what this really is, playing with your health like it is.
But yeah, guys, that's it for today. Remember to again check out our sponsor, the Seeds of Decay Kickstarter. Cool stuff. Don't miss it. It's only available for a limited time. You don't want to get all the extra bonuses and fun, cool stuff on there. Again, Hit Point Press is working with them, so you know it's going to be worth checking out at the very least. That's it, guys. This is Taldorei Reborn. Subclasses, all 9 have now been covered. Let us know if there's anything else from the book that you'd like to see. There's vestiges, there's lore stuff, which really kind of goes outside of what we normally talk about. So
and there's some interesting monsters maybe in there if you'd like to see us do maybe more of the monster stuff that's out of here.
But yeah, if there's anything particular you want to see from these books, let us know. We do like to branch out here and there, but again, the character creation stuff really feels like our spot to go to, so we try to stick with that. But of course, if we have requests, we'll be willing to check out other stuff. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed the video, remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know when our new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.